again, you're the top bad guy in the company. So
Yeah.
it's like, what's coming with the territory of being the top bad guy? And with this story per se, you kind of given a few little bits and pieces of it without going into the whole entire thing. And, obviously we don't want to put over the nut job. That was me saying it's not Shane. It was me saying that. But this girl who was involved with this thing, how do you approach the actual legality part of it, and in terms of how it plays into your character of the franchise? At that point, not exposing as much as we do now, how did you kind of walk that fine line of the business and what happened in the incident?
Well, first of all, the first rung of this, ladder for me was my job is to piss the audience off. So I'm not going to piss you off, and then when you get pissed off at me, beat you up for it. But as we were walking back in Downingtown, the room there was a very small room in the farmers market. There was like an exposition hall, but it was a very small room. And as ECW got more well known with the fans, that building started filling up pretty quickly. As a result, they had to take the aisle, which is typically 8 or 10 feet wide, to 6 feet. And then by that time, I think it was about 4 feet wide. So you could literally touch both railings on the entrance. In those types of buildings, in every building, Francine and I had a system, and Atlas Security had a system. The Atlas Security system was they had a phalanx around us. There was 2 guys to my front, right, and left, and 2 guys to my rear, right, and left. And Francine would walk behind me with her hand in the back of my tights. And I always said, if any trouble breaks out, just hang on, because I'll full back us to the dressing room. Well, Atlas's role, and I think their policy was that if something would happen, they were to bear hug us from behind. So pinning our arms down to our sides so that we couldn't even, if we wanted to, inadvertently hit somebody. And as we were walking back, I was keeping our heads down, but looking over my eyebrows to see what was coming. And I could see this girl, pretty good sized girl, we'll say, standing on her seat and leaning on the railing into the rail, and she had her fist pumped. So I knew what she was going to do. And as we got closer, I sort of walked, as far as I could to the left to not run into those people. And right as I walked past, she spat in my face. And when she spat in my face, I turned to look at her. She swung at me, and I instinctively just pulled my head back out of the way, and she missed me and clocked Francine.
Oof.
Well, as soon as that happened, Big Joe, who was about 6'7", bear hugged me from behind. At which point, some guy that was with her picked a chair up and smacked me in the face. And Franny's now being held. And Paul Heyman came out. I remember him and Taz and a bunch of other people, and pulled me by the hair back into the dressing room. And I won't lie to you, had I been able to get loose from them, I'd have killed her, or whoever it was that swung the chair at me. But by that time, it had de-escalated. We were back in the dressing room and safe. On the way back to the hotel that night, I get a phone call from our head ticket usher, and she said that the Pennsylvania State Police wanted to talk to me the next day. I had nothing to hide, so me and Francine and our head of security went down the next morning and met with this guy. He interviewed each of us separately, and within a matter of a week or so, I get served these papers for aggravated assault, which had a 12-year prison sentence to it. And I can laugh about it now. At the time, I was really pissed off because nobody had touched that girl. Secondly, they had attacked us, and again, where security made that Mark Shapiro that night threw her out instead of having her arrested. And typically that would probably have solved the problem. But as we saw with this case, it didn't. And the odd thing was, by the time I went and hired an attorney, and the attorney hired I can't remember the guy's name. Jeff Abramson was the attorney. But he hired a former Secret Service agent that had walked with 5 presidents. And this guy was an expert at lie detector tests. So he administered a lie detector test, and afterwards said that he had never seen anybody pass one so convincingly, and that was because I was telling the truth. But what really stood out to us was that initially we thought we had a problem because they had 12, I think it was 12 witnesses that said they saw me hit this girl. Well, I knew that wasn't even possible because I didn't even swing in her direction. My hands were pinned to my side. And, that I could tell both my attorney and this guy were like half not believing me because how can there be 12 witnesses saying this and you're saying it didn't happen? Until he went and started interviewing those witnesses. And I wish I had the state cop's name because I'd use it on the air right now. In fact, I'll try to find it and I'll post it up on the Twitter site just to make sure that he gets the nice feedback that he should get. He had changed those 12 witness statements. Those 12 witnesses all told our investigator that they told the police that I did not hit that girl. And that police officer changed all those statements to read that I did hit that girl.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And when I wanted to go back after the state police afterwards, my attorney was adamant that that would not be a good idea. And would not do that, didn't want any part of that case, which sort of shows you the problem with how the system is set up. So for all the young talent out there, take that as the lesson that, if the police want to come and do something, thank God I had the resources at the time that I could hire that guy because he wasn't cheap, and that he had the time and the desire to go out and recheck those witness statements. Because who in their right mind is ever going to believe that a state cop is going to change 12 witness statements? And yet that's exactly what happened. So thankfully, I was obviously bound over for trial. And when we went to the hearing afterwards, I remember the magistrate in Downingtown admonishing the girl and telling her that she had better never see her in that courtroom again. She apologized to me, the magistrate did. And, it was a scary time, because again, the world ain't nearly as crazy then as it is now. But still, when you're being held up for a potential 12-year prison sentence, you kind of take notice of that. And, afterwards, we overhauled the policies then. For me, it was if anybody got within 5 feet of me, Atlas was to take them down and not let them anywhere near me. But, again, it's a completely different world today. And my guess would be that if that same thing would happen today, I'm not so certain that I'd get so lucky as to find the investigator that I had that was able to uncover that. And shocking to me that a Pennsylvania State Police sergeant at the time, I don't know what he is now. Like I said, I'm going to find his name to make sure that the fans out there can give him the thumbs up that he so well deserves. You know what I mean? The thumbs up.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.